Hello, everybody. It's Dave Neal, stand-up comic and host of Bachelor Nation News. Happy Monday morning to everyone out there. After several long weeks of travel, it is so good to be back home at the home studio right here. And let's kick things off with a Maddie Prewett story. Maddie Prewett untags herself from a Trump event, and then Maddie Prewett's mom allegedly photoshops that event. You see the photo here? She actually removed, I guess what's a lanyard from a Trump event, and also removed the Trump from the podium. Why does this matter? Well, we're going to get into it. Does it matter in the grand scheme of things? It's just all about authenticity, folks. Like, if you're a pro-Trump person, just be a pro-Trump person and deal with whatever repercussions come from that, which would be people that might call you hypocritical or whatnot. Follow me on Instagram at DNeals. If you want to be a pro Dave person, go to patreon.com/Dave Neal for behind the scenes bonus content. I'm going to be sharing with you guys some interesting things regarding my court case that's coming up and all of the other battles that we're facing, because there are some out there. Bachelor Rush Hour, the afternoon podcast. Hey, starting in December, Bachelor Rush Hour will do a soft launch where we have a morning episode, the Morning Rush. And that's going to be me just giving you 20 to 25 minutes to get you to work. Some music. We'll play some, whatever, Christmas, holiday music. It'll be fun. Anyway, that's Bachelor Rush Hour right there. Okay, let's jump into it. So here's the first photo we've got. This was a photo that someone took with Maddie posing in front of the Trump sign. And it does kind of look like, I don't know if this is an LED screen or maybe it was, I don't know, maybe it was a reflective tape or whatever. But it does look a little altered right there. But that's the actual Trump sign. As far as we know, that's the podium. He was there to do a fundraiser in Dallas, Texas on November 1st and or 2nd for part of his fundraising swing. And as we know, Maddie Prewett's husband, Grant Trout, his father, Kenny Trout, is a billionaire. That's right. He's a telecom billionaire. He founded Excel Communications, and he's given $1.9 million, which is nothing to a billionaire, and $5 million overall to Trump. He owns a 2,400-acre Kentucky thoroughbred farm. So he's got all these different things. He also donates a ton of money to the local Republican races in Texas. Now, if someone donates to Republicans, does that make them bad? Well, it really depends on what they're donating for. Are they donating because they believe in pro-life and they don't want the ability for people to be able to get abortions and have safe contraception and these types of things? That would be, different than if they were voting for a Republican candidate who is pledging to shrink the budget or whatever, these ridiculous old beliefs of Republicans that have since died, which is, conservative spending and all of that. We know that that's not the case in the world we live in now. So anyway, let's go back here. So here's the photo that her mother posted, and we've got what appears to be a lanyard that was photoshopped out right here. It's hard to see what the heck is actually going on down there, but clearly there's some string and something's just missing. That's fine, whatever. And then over here, the Trump sign is gone. Or maybe they took it down, to be quite honest. I don't even know anymore which is which, but that's where they are, right? And then there's other photos. And it's like, look, like I said, it's all about authenticity. If you want your religious message that she's obviously got, the agenda being wait till marriage and, sort of like purity culture is not bad or whatever the hell it's called. If you want that to be your message, the question is should you privately be supporting a candidate and like you can't have both sides of the coin, right? So either be a pro-Trump guy, either be taking photos in front of his podium at the rally, or don't. You know what I mean? Well, it was a chance for us to get a family photo. Okay, whatever. It just really comes down to just be your authentic self, which I think is her messaging. Well, what's the authentic self? Detagging yourself from being at a Trump rally and photoshopping. And again, maybe, and it could be, I'm going to give benefit of the doubt. It could be that this lanyard wasn't a pro-Trump lanyard and maybe it was ugly and they wanted to get rid of it. It also could be that the Trump sign that was here was then taken down. That absolutely could be the case. And she could have just wanted to remove herself from this, programming here because she didn't like her stance or whatever. That's, 100% could be the case there. It just comes down to why is there such a weird obsession with a lot of Christians for Trump as a candidate, and again, it's a battle a lot of Christians face. There's a lot of infighting amongst Christians on this topic. But I would say this, instead of donating to $7 million to different political candidates in Texas, maybe Kenny Trout could donate to my GoFundMe for proper legal funds. We're inching our way to that $10,000 goal. I'm cutting a check tomorrow for $10,000 to my lawyer for a retainer, or wiring him a check, I should say. And that's just, unfortunately, what it's costing for me to deal with all of the responses that I have to through the legal system for this injunction against harassment filed against me. That's a whole separate story, but that's where we're at. I'm actually surprised we've had this many donations. It blows my mind. You guys have been so kind. I thank you guys a million. All right. So anyway, let's go play a few clips from Maddie talking about sort of following the path and how she's persecuted and all of this. And again, if she came out as a pro-Trump person, I wouldn't consider that persecution. I think persecution is it's like bullying, right? Bullying is a systematic sort of harassment of somebody. Now you could say, some people say, well, bullying, you could bully somebody one time, sure. But the traditional definition is not just harassment, but over and over tormenting. Well, with Maddie, it's like, what are you? What are you representing here? Are you representing Trump as a political candidate? Then if you are, just deal with the aftermath from the people who may disagree with you.
Following the Lord, following God is not easy. It's it's not easy. It's countercultural. It's not popular. You get mocked. You get insulted. You get.
It's definitely popular. It's the biggest religion in our country. It's extremely popular. Again, I don't think it's hard to follow the Lord at all. I don't think that's hard whatsoever. What is hard is to live up to what some people have set are crazy standards.
Get attacked, but it's worth it.
It's
so worth it. My Bible promises me and tells me I will be persecuted. Jesus says, if they hated me, they will hate you. In 1 John 4, it talks about you cannot love God and the world. And if you were of the world will accept you as their own. If you were of God, the world will not accept you as their own because you are not of the world. And so it's that reminder that as Christians, we are called to be set apart. We are called to rise up. We are called to speak out and to stand firm in our faith. It says in Matthew 5, blessed are those who are persecuted and insulted for my name. For great is your reward in heaven.
So she's actually saying she almost wants to be persecuted, it seems. God said they were going to persecute us, and God, by golly, they are. And if you're persecuted, you get into heaven quicker. You get a fast pass into heaven. You deal with persecution, you're taking the stairway to heaven. Right up there. Escalators even. Okay, so either way, and then, of course, this nice lady here who is the host of Girls Gone Bible podcast, you can just see these sad comments. So look at her comments. Is this the way a woman of God should show herself? You have a beautiful soul, but you have a lot to learn. So the purity that exists amongst some people, it's just ridiculous. You know what I mean? She looks nothing but like a nice, happy person. There's nothing against her. I'm sure she's a great podcast host and all these other things. When you search the Dave Neal show here, you'll find that we actually interviewed Dr. Laura Anderson on Saturday while I was in Nashville, and it's called Overcoming Purity Culture and High Control Religions with Dr. Laura Anderson. I quickly, at the beginning of this episode, let people know my belief that we are not here to tell people religion is bad. It is when religion is used to control you for your body, and of course, that's exactly what the donations that Maddie Prewett's father-in-law will go to. That's going to a crazy campaign that I can't believe in 2023 we're still discussing, the pro-life movement versus having doctors and medical professionals work hand in hand with people to do what's best for them. That's what the current rule of law should be, in my opinion. So anyway, it goes on, and then we can see here different amounts of money that have been donated, and we've covered this a ton. And it's look, like I said, it's just about be authentic. If you're willing to shout from the rooftops your love for God and all of that, just be willing to also let people know where you're spending your money politically, because that's as an influencer kind of what it's. I think we should separate church and state, but it seems a lot like those that have their church also want to donate to money to political candidates who bring that church into the rulings that should have been separated. Theologian Russell Moore has a message for Christians who still worship Donald Trump. Hey, let's believe what theologians have to say. They study the Bible. The past few years have not been an easy time to be God's lobbyist. A lot of folks claiming to represent the Almighty have been jostling for space in the corridors of Washington with a lot of conflicting agendas. Their methods often seem mutually exclusive with the Christian tenet that one should love one's neighbor. So perhaps it's not surprising that shortly after the events of January 6th, the guy whose actual paid job it is to try to get those in power to think about a higher power got about as ticked off as a polite Southern gentleman of faith is allowed to get. He said, if you can defend this, you can defend anything. And that was his talking about the idea that they wanted to hang Mike Pence and all these other things. If you can wave this away, well, what about blank? Added more, then when at long last is your limit? And that's kind of the ideal. We'll get comments from people. Well, what about the other side? Well, it really comes down to me, the idea that a lot of conservatives have had about character that character matters, right? So here's an article, When Character No Longer Counts. One of the most surprising developments of the 2016 presidential campaign was the wholesale abandonment by many conservative Christians, including many Catholics and most evangelicals, of a position that they had once held almost unanimously. In politics, character counts. It is not difficult to understand how this happened, though people who share many fundamental religious convictions will be debating for a long time the wisdom of replacing the familiar standards for evaluating political candidates. So yeah, it then becomes a whataboutism. Oh, Trump's character is bad. Well, what about these others? Well, it's kind of like, well, when it's in your political party, that's the room you have to clean. Of course, I detest all of the lobbying and money that's been given to all political parties out there. It is a really just a terrible time. Our political system is getting exposed for so much fraudulent behavior, and political candidates and elected officials not doing what's right by their political by their constituents, but by doing what's right by the people that are funding their campaigns. Campaigns that should not be funded, right? We should not have money in all of this. So anyway, Donald Trump was asked if he has ever asked God for forgiveness.
Christian, have you ever asked God for forgiveness? That's a tough question.
And then he spends a minute not answering it, and then we go to right here where he finally gets asked again.
He passed away, but he was great. He wrote The Power of Positive Thinking, which is great.
But have you ever asked God for forgiveness?
I'm not sure I have. I just go on and try and do a better job from there. I don't think so. I think if I do something wrong, I think I just try and make it right. I don't bring God into that picture. I don't. Now, when I take, when we go to church and when I drink other wine, which is about the only wine I drink, and have my little cracker, I guess that's a form of asking for forgiveness. And I do that as often as possible because I feel cleansed. Okay? But, to me, that's important. I do that. But in terms of officially, I could say absolutely, and everybody. I don't think in terms of that. I think in terms of let's go on and let's make it right.
So there it is. All right, people are free to vote for him in the next election if he's going to be the Republican nominee. But I just think by covering Bachelor Nation, that if we're going to cover people like Maddie Prewett, we're going to say, look, are you going to vote for this guy? Just let it be known. And I understand you don't have to tell people. You can keep that a secret to you, but that wouldn't be authentic, right? So while she doesn't have to tell people, it's like, what's going on there? We're detagging, we're removing placards and this and that. What's happening there? So anyway, that's your Maddie Prewett update. Oh boy, I don't think we're going to actually anger anybody. I think they've already all left us, but a boy can dream. We've got a lot more content coming your way. We'll be live at the 10 a.m. hour on Patreon and more right after this.